The flight had barely started boarding when the unthinkable happened. A flight attendant, firm and unflinching, leaned down toward Karoline Leavitt and spoke just loud enough for surrounding passengers to hear. "Miss, your necklace might make others uncomfortable." A hush fell over the cabin. It wasn't just about a necklace. It was about what it represented. But what the attendant didn't know was Caroline had already pressed record, and within the hour this flight would become the center of a national firestorm. Because she wasn't just any passenger. She was the spark that would ignite the conversation America didn't know it needed. It was supposed to be an uneventful business trip. Karoline Leavitt had settled into her first-class window seat on a morning flight from Phoenix to D.C., wearing her signature navy blazer and a delicate gold cross necklace that rested just above her collarbone. She exhaled quietly, glancing out at the tarmac. The sky was clear, her calendar full. The world, as far as she knew, calm for now. The cabin around her bustled with the usual rhythm. Flight crew greeted passengers with polished smiles. A businessman adjusted his AirPods. A mother soothed a sleepy toddler 2 rows behind. Then came her, Isabel, mid-40s, tightly wound ponytail, stern voice, and the unmistakable energy of someone who wielded her job like a badge of power. She greeted each passenger by rote until she reached Caroline. Her steps slowed. "Miss," Isabel said, pausing. Her eyes scanned Caroline's necklace. "We ask passengers to refrain from wearing overt religious symbols. It can make others feel uncomfortable." Caroline's brows lifted. "Excuse me? We've had complaints in the past. We like to keep the cabin neutral." Caroline didn't flinch. She knew what this was and what it wasn't. "This cross," she asked, lifting it gently, "is that what's causing discomfort?" The attendant smiled, tight-lipped. "It's not personal, just policy." Caroline replied evenly. "Then I'd like to see that policy." In writing around them, a few heads turned. A man in business class leaned slightly forward. A younger woman across the aisle froze, mid-text. Phones hovered just a second longer than they should have. Isabel's smile faltered, just for a heartbeat. "I'm simply asking for cooperation." "No," Caroline said, her voice clear. "You're asking me to hide my faith." A junior attendant, clearly nervous, hovered nearby. Isabel turned sharply. "Grace, can you please get the in-flight supervisor?" Grace hesitated, then disappeared toward the front of the plane. Caroline sat still, her posture perfect, but inside her pulse thundered. Not from fear, but from the weight of something she couldn't yet name. Something bigger. Minutes passed. Then the supervisor appeared. Marta, early 50s, no-nonsense demeanor, approached with practiced calm. "Is there an issue, ma'am?" Before Caroline could speak, Isabel jumped in. "She's refusing to comply with uniform cabin expectations." Marta's eyes flicked between them, then landed on the cross. "There's no regulation against wearing religious jewelry," she said. Her voice was neutral, but final. Isabel's lips parted, closed again. Whispers began. "She told her to hide her necklace? Seriously? That's crossing a line." And then, unmistakably, a phone click. Someone was recording. Caroline took a breath, leaned back in her seat, and whispered to herself, "They never learn." Cameras are always rolling. 10 rows back, the man with the AirPods uploaded a 30-second clip to X with the caption, "Woman asked to remove Christian cross mid-flight. You tell me, is this tolerance?" By the time the plane began taxiing, the clip had 85,000 views. At 30,000 feet, the cabin grew tense. Isabel tried to resume duties, but her usual confidence had cracked. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured drinks. Caroline received glances, some admiring, others hesitant. But one woman reached across the aisle, touched her hand gently, and said, "Thank you for not backing down." Caroline nodded. No one should have to. As the flight progressed, the viral moment snowballed. The story hit the Federal Lens, Daily Liberty, and Free Faith Tribune. The hashtags were multiplying: Shakshish, Faith Under Fire, Shah Christian Persecution, Sharsh, Stand With Caroline. As the plane landed, Caroline's phone lit up like Times Square. Press requests, statement requests, support pouring in from unexpected places, even people who didn't share her politics, but understood the principle. At the gate, two security agents waited, not for Caroline, but for Isabel. Marta, the supervisor, had filed a misconduct report mid-flight, and there it was, accountability. Hours later, Caroline stood before a podium outside Reagan National Airport. Behind her, reporters. Beside her, constitutional attorneys. In front of her, America. I wore a cross, she said, not as a provocation, not as a statement, but as a symbol of who I am. And if someone finds that offensive, that's not my problem. That's their bias. She paused. But let me be clear. This isn't just about me. It's about every American who's ever felt pressured to hide their values to make someone else comfortable. In the weeks that followed, the airline issued a formal apology. Isabel quietly resigned. Caroline's moment sparked a national dialogue about freedom of expression, religious discrimination, and what it means to defend your identity in a culture that often asks you to erase it. The cross, she still wears it, and these days it shines just a little brighter.